How we doing? Good, good. So thanks for coming this morning. How many of you have been to one of my talks before? Anybody here been to one of mine? Okay, only 2 or 3 of you. That's great. So I work at Duke. My job is I'm the sports psychologist there. So what that means is I work every day with our coaches and athletes on their mental approach to the game. Matter of fact, I talked to Coach K this morning. They're working with the USA national team, and we were talking about a couple things. And I actually told him I was coming to come and speak and spend some time with you guys. And he said, and I said, so do you have any great advice that I could give these folks? And he thought about it for a second. He said, Greg, you know what? You're like the model presenter. You're going to do a great job. I said, wow, Coach, thanks. I appreciate that. And then I started thinking about it, and then I look it up on my computer. You know, the definition of model is the miniature version of the real thing. So I'm not quite sure that was a compliment coming from him. I'm sure it probably wasn't. But I have a great job. But what I want to do, athletes, is I want to spend a little bit of time with you guys. And then parents, I want to spend a little bit of time with you. And in addition to my work there at Duke, I work with lots of athletes and corporations outside of there. But that's my main job. And athletes, how much of your game of lacrosse is mental, you think? How much of it starts to become mental? Would you guys say it's at least 50% mental? I find when I talk to athletes about it, it becomes mental when it's close at the end of the game, or when maybe you get intimidated before you ever start off. Whatever that is, I don't know, but the higher you go, the more important your mental approach to the game is going to be. So athletes, I hope I give you maybe one thing that you might use that can help you be more successful at what you're doing, all right? First thing I want to talk about really is practice. Nobody really likes to talk about practice, but practice is really, really important. Here's like 3 things for practice, guys, that I want you to think about and hopefully will help you a little bit. As an athlete, I think you're getting better today or you're getting worse today. There's no such thing as I'm going to show up and just go do my thing here. You know, so what we do is we talk about having a purpose for practice every day. Every day you ought to think about what's my purpose for practice. Coach K will regularly call guys aside or in front of the whole team. Hey, Grayson, what is your purpose for practice today? Coach Stanowski will do the same thing with our men's lacrosse team. What is your purpose for practice today? Kirsten will with our women's lacrosse team. What is your purpose for practice? Our volleyball team has a whiteboard on the side of the court, and everybody has to go up and write down what their purpose for practice is. We really believe that you're either getting better today or you're getting worse. And so we're going to find that we have a purpose for practice every day. So how about this, athletes? If you don't know what your purpose might be, I promise you your coach can give you some ideas about what that is. But you got to think about what's one thing every day that I'm going to get better at. Next thing is I want you to think about this. You need to be where your feet are. What the heck does that mean? Be where your feet are. Like right now, athletes, some of you are looking at me, some of you aren't even looking at me. But those of you that are looking at me, you act like you're paying attention, right? Kind of like you do in class. But you're looking at me, but you're thinking about what's going to happen later on in your game, or you're thinking about what happened earlier in your game that you just played maybe, or in your practice or whatever. Be where your feet are. What that means is when you are here, you are here. So when you're an athlete, athletes, raise your hand if you ever go to practice, and while you're at practice, during school anyway, you ever think about school while you're at practice? Anybody ever do that? Come on. Don't lie now. Our kids at Duke, they struggle with it because they take academics really, really seriously. How about athletes? How about this? Do you ever think about food while you're at practice? Raise your hand. There we go. Now I know I got you. Yes. How about when you are at practice? I bet some of you are thinking about what's going on your social network, right? Maybe relationships. Maybe you're in a fight with mom or dad or something like that. And then how about this? When you go home at night and you got to study for a history test, or you got to study for a chemistry exam, and practice didn't go well, what are you guys probably thinking about while you're studying for that exam? You're thinking about practice. So while you're at practice, you're going to think about school and food, and then when you go home and study, you're going to think about what happened earlier in the day. So what we talk about is you got to be where your feet are. Here's one great example. A guy that played basketball for us now, plays in the NBA. Every day that guy would go to practice, he would make a list in his mind of all the things he's got going on in his life and kind of make a list of when he was going to take care of those. And you might think this is silly, but he'd take his street clothes off, put his practice uniform on, and he goes from being Clark Kent to being Superman. If you think about it, Clark Kent looks just like the rest of us right now, like an everyday guy. But when he puts on that practice uniform, he is focused, and I'm nothing but a basketball player for the next 2 hours. So we spend a lot of time at Duke really trying to help our athletes learn how to be where your feet are. So maybe for you, when you put that practice uniform on, you're not a son, you're not a daughter, you're not a student, okay? You're an athlete. And then maybe you use your shower. Maybe your shower isn't until you go home. I hope you shower sometime soon after practice. But at some point when you get to that shower, that's when you need to think about what went well, what didn't go well, and what are you going to do tomorrow when I'm in practice again, or next time I'm in a game, I'm going to do this. And then you got to let it go. You got to sort of, a guy in the NFL I work with, he looks at it like all those things are going away down the drain, and now he goes on and does other things that he needs to do. So I'm going to encourage you that you got to try to do that, all right? It's really, really important. Athletes, how about confidence? Is it important? What do you think? So athletes, I'd love for you to tell me something now. I want you to raise your hand, some of you. Don't be shy. Where do we get our confidence from? Who are those people that we look to for our confidence? Yes. Our family, yes. Who else do we look for our confidence from? Anybody? Yes. Our coaches, yes. Very good. So how about this? I think that many of us, if we're honest, we depend way too much on other people for how we feel about ourselves, for our confidence. And what I would tell you, athletes, if you, this is one of those big ones, so if you've been asleep so far, it's really important to listen right now, that confidence, true confidence, doesn't come from other people. See, your parents can't wrap up confidence in a nice little bow and give you confidence. Your coach can't give you confidence. I would tell you, if your coach, you come into practice and your coach tells you every day, wow, you kind of suck. You're not very good. That could probably influence your confidence. But I'm telling you that if you depend too much on other people for how you feel about yourself and your ability, that's something that you need to change. You need to change this idea that I got to take some ownership of my own confidence because it comes from within. Here's a couple of things about confidence. So stop looking to other people. It comes from knowing you're prepared. You guys ever go take a test and you know you're not prepared? How confident do you feel? But how about this? If you go to practice every day and you practice with a purpose and you be where your feet are, and how about this? Do you ever spend 10 minutes after practice, after everybody else is picking up all the equipment, do you ever stick around and work on your game? If you're a goalie, do you ever ask a couple of the guys on attack to stick around? Or if you're a midfielder, do you ask one of your teammates to stick around? Or just so you can work on your game a little bit more. I'm not saying that you do it for hours and hours and hours, but I'm telling you, you do that 10 minutes, 15 minutes before or after practice, it's going to help you feel more confident. So if you're struggling, go spend a little bit of time. Also, get off the couch, go play wall ball. All right? Go do it by yourself. It's amazing how much that will help you because you know you're prepared. All right? Think about doing that. I can't tell you how important that is. And by the way, I would argue you're never going to be a great athlete, if you don't spend a little bit of extra time outside what coaches demand of you. Okay? The best athletes I've ever been around, they spend extra time. I want you to have a life. You need to have a life, but you also need to be willing to spend a little bit of extra time. I would also tell you that confidence comes from this idea that I would also say that sometimes you got to fake it until you make it. You got to act confidently, not for everybody else, but for yourself, the way you carry yourself, the way you handle things. You need to be aware of your body language. Another place is how you talk to yourself. Athletes, I'd love for you to do this something for me, either with your friend, that teammate there, or if a parent is with you, I want you to do something for me. I want you to think about the last time you made a mistake. I want you to think about all the negative things you said to yourself, all right? And I want you to turn to that person next to you, even if it's mom or dad, or it's a teammate, and I want you to act like they made your mistake, and I want you to actually verbalize out loud. I want you to say out loud all the things to them that you say to yourself. I want you, if you say, wow, you're an idiot, I want you to look at dad and say, wow, you're an idiot, okay? This is a great opportunity for you to say whatever you want to say. But I want you to say what you would say to yourself. I want you to act like this person next to you is your teammate. They're out there with you, and they made your mistake. And I want you to actually say out loud all the negative things to them that you say to yourself. And I don't want you to hold anything back. Honestly, if you kind of say bad things about yourself, you swear, I want you to swear. I don't want you to hold anything back, all right? You call yourself a bad name, you call them a bad name. Let's see how that goes. Go. Let's hear it. Let's hear it. All right. Athletes, how'd that feel? Feel a little awkward? Some of you are thinking that felt pretty good to be able to say that, right? Athletes, I want you to think about this. Every time you make a mistake out there on the field, one of your teammates, and it's always the same kid, comes up to you and says all the things to you, out loud to you, that you might be thinking in your head that are all negative. Same kid on your team every time. What would you do? Some of you thinking, we're going to square up right now, right? I'm going to square up and I'm going to knock you out. Some of you thinking you'd start crying. How about this? How many of you actually talk to your teammates the way you talk to yourself when you're not playing well, when they're not playing well? Most of you would never do that. Here's the thing about self-talk, guys. It's directly tied. Your confidence is directly tied to how you talk to yourself. So I'm going to encourage you that I'm not saying that, boy, it's okay every time you make a mistake. But here's the thing. If you're thinking about a mistake, at Duke we have what we call the 3-second rule. If you're thinking about a mistake for more than 3 seconds, you aren't being mentally tough in that moment. You got 3 seconds. You make a bad pass, ball goes out of bounds, the other team brings it in, it's got to be gone. You're a goalie, right? Tough playing goalie. You're a goalie, ball goes in, you got 3 seconds to let that thing go. If you're thinking about it for more than that, some of you think about it for 20 minutes. Some of you are beating yourself up for the entire game because of something that happened early on. And I would tell you that some of you like to put on a great show and you want to let everybody know how upset you are with yourself because you just made a mistake, because I have higher standards for myself. Guess what? When you do that, you're not demonstrating how much you care. You're demonstrating your lack of mental toughness. It takes a much more mentally tough athlete to make a mistake, keep your head up, and focus on the next play. Focus on the next one. Here's the thing. If I come watch you sometime during this tournament here, this week, if I come watch you, I shouldn't be able to tell if you're playing awesome or you're totally stinking right now. By your body language and your effort and your attitude, I should not be able to see that. Those of you that think you won't play in college, as you're starting to get into, unfortunately, 8th and 9th grade now, I'm telling you, when college coaches are out here watching you, they are not necessarily, they watch you because obviously they know you're good, but here's the deal. They're watching, because I work with them every day. I'm telling you, what they watch is how you handle it when you're not playing well. When things aren't going well for you or with your team, how do you handle that? That's what they're looking for. Body language is really important. You need to keep your head up. You need to focus on the next play. You need to keep it going. Here's a couple of ways. You watch some of our guys, our men's basketball team. They do this after a mistake. They don't hold their hand up like this. They might just do it right down here to the side. Pitcher I work with will step off the back of the mound and just do that right there and turn back around and be ready to go. They're doing something that you guys do every day. They're flushing the toilet. Okay? They're flushing that mistake down the toilet. There's a baseball team I work with. We have a miniature toilet in the dugout. You have a bad at bat, you come up and flush that toilet, and now you're ready to go play in the field, and vice versa. All right? There's lots of ways. Maybe you just slap your leg, or you do this. There's some athletes that do this, kind of look at those balloons like when you were a kid, and you go get those balloons, and unless mom was smart enough to tie that thing around your wrist, by the time you get to the car, that thing's gone, and she got to go back in and get you another one. I'm telling you, professional athletes, college athletes, look at those mistakes like that. You got to let it go. You got 3 seconds. You can say what you want in that 3 seconds. Don't let anybody see you're struggling. Your teammates, if I'm your opponent and I see you do that, I got you right where I want you. You're struggling. I got you right where I want you. Don't do that, all right? The other thing about, and by the way, after that 3 seconds, you need to talk to yourself in the way you would talk to one of your teammates. Hey, you got this. You're going to be fine. Keep your head up. Keep working. It's coming. You got it. That's what you would say to them. You got to do the same thing for yourself. The last thing about confidence is I think we all walk around with a confidence tank, right? Here it is. And and if this is full, most of us walk around every day with it about right here. Now the boys Teenage boys, yours are like bubbling over, right? You got more confidence than all of us in here. But as we know, most of that's fake anyway, right, or false. Girls, you guys are really hard on yourselves. You got nothing in this tank. What are you doing to fill that thing up? I would tell you that if someone that gives you a compliment that you trust or respect, I want you to try this over the next week or so. I want you to just say thank you. Appreciate that. Don't say anything else. Just let it hang right there. Some of you are going to really struggle with that. You're going to feel really, oh no, but, or you'll want to compliment them back. I want you to just simply say thank you. I appreciate that. That one goes in the tank, right? If you do a little extra work, that one goes in the tank. You need to do some things to fill that confidence tank, all right? I just have a couple other things, and then I want to talk to parents. Athletes, how about pressure? Do you guys feel pressure? When do you guys feel pressure in lacrosse? Girls, 8 meters? You ever feel pressure there? Yes? How about guys? Anybody? When do you feel pressure? Yes? From our parents, yes. From our parents. Yes. I put that guy in this audience on purpose, yes. Our parents, our coaches, the situation. Athletes, this is really important. If you can learn this, it's really important. It's not what your coaches say. It's not what your parents say. It's not the situation that you're in that makes you feel pressure. It's all in how you look at it that determines whether you feel pressure or not. So guess what? Pressure only comes from this little 6-inch space between your ears. That's where pressure comes from. Some athletes get into a situation, it's the end of the game. Some of them are thinking, this is awesome. I got this. Or some people are thinking, oh my God, please don't let me screw this up. Or my team's going to be mad at me if I let them down, or if I don't do this or I don't do that. I'm going to tell you, pressure is all in how you look at it. So how about this? I'm going to ask you a couple of questions about pressure. And I want you to think about you when the pressure comes for you. And by the way, it might not even be in lacrosse. For you, it might be socially. Maybe it's academically. You don't have a lot of confidence. Whichever of those 3 areas that you struggle and you feel pressure, I want you to think about it. When pressure comes, are you motivated to be successful, or are you avoiding failure? Are you saying, I got this, this is awesome, or are you thinking, please God, don't let me screw this up? If you're thinking, please God, don't let me screw this up, you're going to start guiding the ball. You're not going to be aggressive. As a goalie, you're going to be tight, and you're not going to play well. You have to train yourself. You have to turn it around and look at it as a great opportunity. All right? It's really important. When the pressure comes, some people will run away from it. Other people embrace it. Some of you, I've worked with athletes that sort of on attack, we're down there on attack side into the game. Some people aren't moving as much to get open because they don't want to be the one to take the last second shot. They're afraid that they might drop the ball for the other team to win the game and have a turnover. I'm going to tell you, if you're hiding, you're going to be not as aggressive, and you're not going to be assertive, and you're not going to do well. So I'm telling you, you got to try to look at it like that, all right? It's really important. Last thing I want to say about this one is, here's a great saying. The likelihood of something happening is more likely to happen if you can let go of the need for it to happen. Does that make sense? I'm going to say that one more time. The likelihood of something happening is more likely to happen if you can let go of the need for that to happen. Sometimes you need to play perfectly. Some of you are perfectionists. So you need to be perfect. You need to play great tonight because those college coaches are out there watching you. I need to do this. I'm going to tell you, in those pressure moments, when you say, I need to do this or I have to, you probably aren't going to perform well. You got to let go of the need to have that. When I was your age, some of you teenagers, I remember a long time ago, there was a girl. There was one particular girl, and I'm telling you, I needed this girl to like me. I was a little desperate. And guess what? Every time she walked in the room, I became a blubbering idiot. I couldn't talk to her, right? I'd think about what I had to say, and I'd rehearse it and go up there and talk to her, and it didn't sound good at all. And unlike you guys, I didn't get to text 3 of my friends to see if she might be interested in me before I actually go talk to her, or text her first before I talk to her. But I figured that out at 16, and so I just let that go, and I said, I'm going to go be myself. And guess what? She started liking me. Now, she only liked me for like 2 weeks and 3 days, but she liked me for a little while. You got to let go of the need to do that sometimes. It's really important. Last thing I'm going to tell you, it is very mental. You might not think about it. It's very mental. It's how you play your role when you're on the bench. When you're on the bench, athletes, what is your role? To cheer on your teammates. Parents, this is really important. Athletes, when you're on the bench, I'm not telling you that you should love that you're on the bench, whether it's on your club team or your high school team. When you're on the bench, your job is to cheer on your teammates. If I come watch you play and you're upset because you should be playing, you feel like you should be out there and some kid's beating you out or for whatever reason you're not playing, and I look and everybody on the team on the side is cheering on their teammates, but you've separated yourself. You've kind of put yourself down at the end, or maybe you're even in the middle of them. Everybody's cheering them on, but you're pouting. You are not cheering on your teammates. Guess what? What you're doing is you're telling everybody here, I'm more important than this team. It's all about me. You know, our men's basketball team, they film the bench during the games. There's a camera on the bench the entire time. They're looking to see what you do. A kid who played for us, Quinn Cook, just graduated a couple years ago, two-guard when they won the last national championship. Here's this kid. As a freshman, he only gets in very sparingly. They go down to preseason tournament down in Hawaii. Quinn doesn't play much. Comes home, coach calls him in his office. And all he did was put the videotape on. And it was picture after picture after picture of Quinn on the bench. Got his head down. Got a towel over his head. He's not high-fiving his teammates when they come off the floor. Coach turns it off and said, son, if you don't change that, you may as well transfer now because you'll never play another second at Duke University. It's not about you. It's about your team. You don't have to love that you're on that bench, but, boy, you better not let anybody see that it's about you. And some of you aren't going to experience this until you go to college, and the first time in your life, you're not the man or you're not the girl on your team. You're just like everybody else, and you're going to find out what it's like. You need to understand that. And how about this? Your team wins, but you don't play well. You didn't play well. Your team wins. Everybody's kind of celebrating, encouraging each other, but you've separated yourself, and you're pouting a little bit. Maybe even a couple of your teammates have to come up and console you and say, hey, that's okay. Don't worry about it. You're a selfish athlete. You wouldn't play for our men's lacrosse team. You wouldn't play for our women's team if you did that. Do not do that. It's not about you. It's about your team. It's really important, okay? All right. Parents, I'm going to shift gears here a little bit. I'd love to interact with you guys just a little bit. What time do we have? Can you tell me what we got? 10:24. All right, good. So we got about 15 minutes here. Parents, athletes, I'm going to have you interact because I'm going to ask you guys a couple questions too. But parents, what are the lessons that you guys want your kids to learn as a result of participating in sports? What are the lessons you hope they learn? Yes?
Never quit.
Never quit, yes. What else? Teamwork. Leadership. Yes. Accept responsibility, yes. Yeah. Respect. Yes. So how about let's talk about a few of those. I think we have to model those things. Teamwork. Teamwork. Do we really want our kids to learn teamwork? One guy said, yes, I'm all about teamwork. His son plays basketball. I'm all about teamwork, Greg. As long as the four best and my kid are out there, I'm all over teamwork. Bring it on. I think it's very difficult for us to be objective when it comes to our children. I have two sons that play lacrosse. They're on lacrosse teams. It's easy to be objective when somebody else's kid's not playing, but when our kid's not playing, it's very difficult for us to be objective. So your daughter is not playing, and she's pouting. Remember that scenario I gave you a minute ago? You're going to go talk to the coach about why my daughter's not playing, or are we going to go talk to our daughter about what it means to be a great teammate when she's not getting to play the role that we want? If teamwork's important to us, I think we got to have that conversation, not the first one. Okay? Does that make sense? How about sportsmanship? You guys want, somebody said respect. So our parents, are you modeling sportsmanship in the way you interact with officials during games? When you go to, I don't know, you guys are from all over the place, but how about, let's just pick on the Red Sox for a second. You go to the Red Sox game, sit in the outfield. Are they going to learn great sportsmanship sitting in the outfield at the Red Sox game? What do you think? How about a Yankees game? Sit in the end zone at a Giants game. They going to learn great sportsmanship? I see it all the time. You're a bum. You suck. That's dad yelling. There's the 5-year-old going, yeah, you suck. They got no idea who they're yelling at. Somebody sucks, and he's a bum. Think about it. If we want our kids to learn it, we got to model it, okay? It's important. Parents, speaking of that, if your spouse or significant other cannot sit by you during competitions, that might be an indication you're out of control. The people that supposedly love you the most can't sit next to you because of the way you do that, right? I think we got to help each other out a little bit. There's a couple of soccer teams where all the parents show up, everybody's giving a lollipop. This is varsity boys soccer in high school. All the parents are giving a lollipop. What are you supposed to do with that lollipop? Put it in your mouth. And if they come up and offer you a second lollipop, that's a pretty good indication you're out of control. We got to help each other with this whole thing, right? Parents, I think that, we talk about kids today, and we say these kids today are entitled. These kids don't have a great work ethic. These kids are this and this and this and this. There's a great quote about kids today. It says, kids today, they lack manners. They'd rather sit around than exercise or sit around and play. They are entitled. They don't have respect for their elders. They'd rather sit around than they don't rise when elders are in the room, and it goes on and on and on. Well, it was written by Socrates back in 399 BC. I'm going to tell you, every generation of adults talks about the next one in the same way. Our parents said we were entitled. Our parents said we didn't have the work ethic that they had. You guys are so entitled. You guys aren't motivated. We say it all the time. I think two things have changed. Technology has changed, and parents have changed. We are much more involved in our kids' lives than our parents ever were, for the most part. Is that fair to say? Yes. Did your parents come to Richmond and spend a week at a lacrosse tournament with you guys? No. We spend a lot more time. So with that in mind, we spend a lot more time, and we look at these kids differently, I think, than way perhaps our parents did. So here's a couple more things about this, parents. As I said, I've got kids, and my kids are involved in sports, and it's very difficult, I think, to do some of the stuff that I'm talking about. But I think if we can really try to do this, it's going to help our kids have a better experience, all right? Gosh, I have so many, and I have such a little bit of time here. Parents, athletes, let me just ask you this one. Athletes, how many of you love it when your parents continually coach you from the sidelines? Raise your hand. In addition to what your coaches are saying, wow, parents, look at this. I got nobody raising their hands. Parents, why do we feel this need to coach our children from the sidelines? Why do we do that? We think it's going to help. Yes. Why else? We live through them. Wow. Yes. All right. How about this, parents? No one raised their hand and said, oh, please, Dad, keep doing that. I love it every time you do that. Nobody does that. How about this? I think we should be there, and we should encourage them. No doubt about it. But how about this, parents? I'd like for you to, next time you guys go to dinner, maybe you're going to go to dinner tonight. When you go to dinner, while you guys are at your table, I'd like for you to listen to this conversation, be engaged in this one. But I'd also like for you to listen to that one over there and this one over here all at the same time. I'd like for you to listen to 3 different conversations at the same time and be fully engaged in those conversations. How's that going to work for you, you think? You can't do it. And how about this? Your athletes, there's no way they can be focused on what they're doing right here, listen to their coach, and listen to you all at the same time. We are more of a distraction than we are a help. How about this, parents? How about we eliminate verbs when we watch our kids play? What are the verbs we use when we watch our kids play? I'm convinced wheels is a verb, by the way. I'm convinced. Wheels, what else we got? What verbs do we use? Shoot, pass, run. What's the pretty elementary stuff here, isn't it? Shoot, pass, run. What else we got? Anything else? What's that? Scoop, yeah, scoop. Both hands, scoop. Separate, yeah. Aren't the coaches saying these kinds of things? Yes, I think so. How about this? No more verbs. I want you guys to, when you go out and watch your kids play this week, I want you to be aware of how many verbs you use and the other people around you. And how about this? Just try using positive adjectives. Hey, great scoop. Well done. Great separation. Right? You're encouraging them as opposed to coaching them. Does that make sense? Try to do that. We are more of a distraction than we are a help when we're watching them. How about this, athletes? How about this, athletes? How many of you, raise your hand, if you love it in that car ride home after it's over and you didn't play well? How many of you love it when Dad says, how come you did this? And what were you thinking when you did that? And Mom says, oh my gosh, what were you doing when you did that? Raise your hand if you love that when that happens. Parents, look around. I don't see anybody raising their hands. Why do we feel this need to do that? I would argue, let's be honest, I would argue we are more invested in our children than anybody ever before. We invest our time. Maybe money's not an issue for you, but it's your time, our ego. It's hard. I have a son who plays football in the fall. He's a tailback. That kid gets to the outside. He scores regularly. Every time he scores, I can just see my chest. I feel it getting a little bigger. Well, that's Greg Dale's son right there. Look how fast that boy is. Now, I have to be honest. His mother happened to be an All-American sprinter at the University of North Carolina, so that might be why the kid's fast, but I still like to think that's my son right there. Plays point guard in basketball. He plays attack and midfield in lacrosse. Man, he's fast. And when he scores, it makes me feel really good about myself. That's not good. Not healthy. And I think that our children are commodities now. We are investing in them. We are investing in them. We are investing in them, and we're hoping to get something in return, right? And what is that return we're looking for most of us? What we're looking for, that pot at the end of the rainbow, is what? A scholarship. Yes, a scholarship. I don't want to burst your bubble, but most of us aren't going to get full rides to play lacrosse in college. It will definitely help you get into college sometimes, for sure. But parents, I'm thinking if we're looking at these kids as more than just that we're going to invest all of our time and money and give up our lives to let them do this stuff, that we got to hope that they learn all these great lessons that you guys talked about, right? So I see more damage. When I talk to college and professional athletes, they talk about that car ride home as their least favorite memories with their parents in sports. Parents, how about it? How about we stop doing it? I was driving in just a little while ago. I got here this morning. I'm driving in with my windows down. The games had just finished. And I'm listening. There were 3 different conversations. Every one of them, Dad was saying, hey, now you should have done this, or why weren't you doing this, and how come you're doing this? And I'm looking at the kids' body languages, and it was not good, not positive at all. I think teenagers put up walls all the time. Those moments, that wall is never higher than right then. Here's what a good buddy of mine does, who he used to coach his kid when he was younger. His kid's a sophomore now. Here's what he does. When the kid gets ready to go play, he says one thing: go have fun. Not, hey, you got to score me a couple today. Hey, let's get a 50% save percentage here. Let's make sure you do this. Make sure you get those ground balls. Maybe make sure you separate. Hey, go have fun with your friends. During a game, he encourages him. He does not coach him from the sidelines. After the game is over, when he sees him, the first thing he says is, I love seeing you out there with your friends. I love seeing you with your teammates. How awesome is that? And then what he says is, this is really important. He says, would you want me to be your coach right now, or you just want me to be your dad right now? And the kid says, if he says, I just want you to be dad, they don't talk about it. They don't talk about it. And he says, Greg, I got to be honest. We're in that car, and I'm grabbing that steering wheel thinking, God, I want to say something to this kid right now. But I don't do it. And he says, you know what? We always talk about it. We always come back around and talk about it. After he's emotionally calmed down, I'm emotionally calmed down, we can talk about it. And we talk about it on his terms. Parents, I'm going to encourage you, ask your kids later at some point today, when you don't play well, what do you need from me? And most of them are going to tell you, I need a little space. I need a little space. Athletes talk all the time about how that's their least favorite memory. And by the way, your love and support of them can never be conditional on how well they perform as an athlete, okay? It can't be. I see it all the time when they play well. We're loving on them and hugging them. Other times, boy, we kind of ignore them. We give them the cold shoulder. What we're saying is that my love and approval of you is based on how you perform as an athlete. That's not a good place to be, okay? It's not a good place. Anybody here coach your own kids in sports? Anybody do that in any sports? Who are we harder on, our own kids or everybody else? On our own. I've done it. I've been there. I work with a guy in the NFL. He's a quarterback. If I said his name, you would recognize this guy. Doesn't have a good relationship with his dad to this day, and for one reason. Dad was his coach. And dad didn't know how to separate being coach and being dad. When you are their coach, you are not their father. And when you are their father, you are not their coach. You got to figure out, Mom, same thing. Girls volleyball player gets to the front door one day and says, Mom, when are you going to stop being my coach and just start being my mom? And she said it hit her like a ton of bricks. So now when they get home, they don't talk about it. They don't talk about it. I'm going to encourage you, be careful about that. One last thing, parents, what are some signs we might not have a life outside our kids' sports? One kid, a good friend of mine, 13-year-old, says, I just wish my mom and dad had a different hobby other than me. What are some signs we might not have a life, parents? Because I would argue we struggle with that. The fact that you're here listening to me, right? Midweek in the summer, right? That might be one. What else? And I've been right there with you, by the way, yes. When games are canceled on the weekend, we got no idea what we're going to do now. That's great, yes. Any others? Parents, I would tell you, if you wear your kids' wrestling medals, you probably don't have a life, all right? That's a pretty good indication you don't have a life, right? How about this? You keep stats during competition. I'm going to challenge you to think about that one, why you do that. Okay? Why we do that. If you attend all their practices. How about this one? Those of you that were athletes, when you were a kid, did your parents come to all your practices and sit in their lawn chair on the sidelines and watch you practice? They didn't. Many of them didn't. Why do we feel that need to be there at all their practices? Parents, why do we feel that need to do that? Any ideas? Say it again. Because we love our kids, yes. Why else? Control. Yes, and we want to know, I would argue we also want to know our investments going the way we want it. We don't consciously think about it. We think we know more than the coach sometimes. How about this? I think when kids are 10 years old, you know that kid's in a great place. You know that they're in a safe place. It's okay. It's okay. Drop that kid off. Go to practice. Hey, you go have a great time. I'm going to go over here and go for a run. I'll be back here in plenty of time to pick you up. I'm going to go grocery shopping. I'll be back here and pick you up. I'll be back here in plenty of time. It teaches them from a very early age that the world doesn't revolve around them all the time, okay? It's important. Athletes, I'm going to wrap it up here. Athletes, it is a myth that you need to play lacrosse year-round in order to play in college. That is not true. And I'm telling you now, if you're fortunate enough to play in college, it will be your full-time job, and it will be a job. It is a lot of work. The overwhelming majority of our kids at Duke played at least 2 sports all the way through high school. At least 2. Our men's lacrosse team, most of them played 3. You do not, I realize some of you go to really big schools and it's really tough to make more than one team, but as long as you can, if you can only play rec basketball in the winter, go play rec basketball. Put the stick down for a little bit. Go do that. If you can play football, or you're a girl and you can play soccer, the skills that you learn there are going to help you in lacrosse. They're going to help you there. And you're more likely to get injured, and you're more likely to burn out if you keep playing lacrosse year-round, and that's all you do. I'm telling you, you don't have to do it, guys. You do not have to do that. And don't let anybody tell you that you need to do this sport year-round, because if they're telling you that, I'm not sure those people genuinely care about your overall well-being. Be careful. Be careful about that, all right? All right, my email is gdale@duke.edu. Boy, if you guys ever come to Durham, look me up. Duke's a great place. I'd be happy to show you around. I can't promise you basketball tickets, but I can promise you football tickets. How's that? We can get you some of those, all right? I have written a few books. I have 3 of them here. One is for coaches. It's a leadership book for coaches. I've also written a couple here that you guys might be interested in, if not the other one. One's called It's a Mental Thing. It's written for athletes. Guys, it's written just for you. It's only 100 pages, big print, lots of pictures. Doesn't take long to read. It's about the stuff I talked about here. I've also written one for parents. It's called The Fulfilling Ride. It's off The Full Ride. But it's the stuff that I talked about today, plus some more. It's got a place in there for you to evaluate yourself. And on the next page, your daughter can evaluate you. And maybe she gives you great remarks on everything but mom and dad, don't coach me from the sideline kind of thing. Just kind of give you some feedback about that. Either one of these are 10. The other one is 20. But whether you buy a book, I hope that you'll view me as a resource. I hope I affirmed you. I hope I gave you some good things. And you're thinking, man, we do some great stuff. Maybe some of you are thinking, wow, we screwed things up with the first one. We still got time left to not screw things up for the second one kind of thing, maybe. I don't know. Athletes, where does confidence come from? Yourself, right? Where does pressure come from? Yourself. How long should you think about a mistake? 3 seconds, all right? Be aware of your body language while you go do that. And go make sure you're a great teammate, all right? Thank you very much for your time, guys. Appreciate it. Thank you.